French Polynesia. To find perfect waves in virgin, unspoiled tropical lands is a dream come true. There are literally thousands of the most beautiful islands you can imagine, just sitting out there waiting. Byron Wong and Ronnie Burns off a small island in French Polynesia looking for waves. Both surfers from Hawaii, and for them it was like a step back in time to a Hawaii of long ago. Byron at a break that had no name, feeling the exhilaration that comes from discovery. There were some waves so perfect, we were awestruck. They were like cartoons. Ronnie knew we were on to something good. These waves broke adjacent to a deep pass in the reef. Ronnie getting ready for the 2-mile boat ride back to shore. None of us knew much about Polynesia, but we were ready to find out. Hey, By, are there any cannibals on that island?
Only the ladies.
All your life, you're led to believe that there's no real paradise. And then you're there. It's all around you. Perfection. Friendly people, no crime, an unmaterialistic lifestyle, fantastic beauty. It's all there. With some of the best waves you can imagine. The local people danced and sang every day we were there. No dancing for tourists, just constant party time. Remember to keep your eyes on the hands. They tell the story. Nice story. By and Ronnie really got into the swing of things. The natives were definitely friendly. Byron bumping where he should be grinding. Ronnie getting fancy with 360s. Yes, the natives were friendly. This guy was very friendly. Everyone in Polynesia loves dancing. The next day, we headed out looking for new waves. Byron soulfully gliding by, almost hypnotized by the perfection of it all. One lone Tahitian doing a layback in waters where surfing originated over 1,000 years ago. One other surfer, a New Zealander, Paul Shanks, testing the tubular limits. The next day, the waves went flat. In fact, for the next 8 days, the waves were flat. The locals would just smile and say, "Aitapea pea, it'll happen, no problem." Everyone we'd talk to, that's all they'd say, "Aitapea pea, don't worry." On the 12th flat day, Johnny Boy Gomes arrived on the boat from Hawaii. Johnny asked how the waves had been, and Ronnie just laughed and said, "No worries, brah, tomorrow's gonna be unreal." Unfortunately, tomorrow was just another Aitapea pea day. That's the general vibe in Polynesia. If your house burns down or your outrigger sinks, no problem. Aitapea pea. After 15 flat days, Ronnie, keeping calm, later, as part of a celebration, the kahunas held a fire-walking ceremony. After a spell was placed over the coals, volunteers took a walk. The guys went native and performed the sacrifice. The next day, singed tootsies and all, they were ready for waves. This was the day. Perfect. One wave, one dive, one sunken boat, and I'm out $4,000 worth of camera gear and a new pair of thongs. Captain Cato here hung tough, never said a word or changed expression. By the time we were rescued, we had drifted 4 miles out to sea. The next day, we were back with a lot less cameras, but the waves were still perfect. Ronnie's sizing up a perfect Polynesian barrel. Byron had cut himself up pretty bad on the coral, while Ronnie and Johnny were ecstatic with dream waves all to themselves. They had found great surf, but now the search for perfect waves took them onward, deeper into the South Pacific. Every place has its drawbacks. In French Polynesia, it's the price tag. A beer costs $9, a Surfmore leash $25, or a pair of Billabong surf shorts $60. This island had a lot of local surfers. Johnny and Ronnie taking some time for a relaxing surf at this black sand beach. These waves were pretty different from the coral crunchers we'd already encountered. Although the water's crystal clear, the black bottom makes it appear shiny and murky. After they got established on this island, close to the waves, these days consisted mainly of surfing one of the premier spots in all of Polynesia. In French Polynesia, there can be a lot of distractions on your way to the surf. Johnny and Ronnie braving their way past this one on their way to the long paddle out to some epic waves at Vicuna. No doubt about it, the trip had been a good call. These days alone made the trip worthwhile. Ronnie, being Goofyfoot, was really pleased with this wave that was as long as Ala Moana and 3 times more hollow.
I got
Johnny's the one that really set him on fire. His driving, never-say-die approach to backhand surfing really knocked him out. Byron also came through with some intense tubes. Local surfer Arsen Araujo, one of the very best surfers from Polynesia. On this late afternoon, Johnny, Byron, Ronnie, and Arsen literally tore the waves apart. The next day, Johnny was stoked to see we'd made the papers. Pro surfing was big news in Polynesia. That afternoon, we met David Vitao at Vicuna. The waves not as good as the day before. David offered to show us another spot by boat equally as good as Vicuna. Johnny Boy took him up on it, and they were on their way. Once again, luck was there, and it was another Polynesian dream. To Johnny, the South Pacific was turning out to be a dream come true. David Vitao, at age 20, is the amateur world junior champ. David's surfing shows the definite possibility of top-of-the-line pros coming out of Polynesia. You can't get any more South Seas than Samoa. Max Medeiros flying into the very heart of old Polynesia. Many Samoans believe that Samoa was the original Garden of Eden in the Bible. It is from Samoa that the rest of Polynesia was settled. The Samoans retain their ancient customs as nowhere else in Polynesia. They lead a carefree but obscure life, and so really welcome the attention of being photographed. Their lifestyle is based all on sharing. Materialism is not even seeked. There are no police. Their fales are the only houses on earth without walls. Max met up with Julian, an Australian staying in Samoa, and they were off to explore for waves. The waves weren't fantastic, but they were refreshing, especially for just stepping off the plane and back into the 19th century. We weren't quite sure about surfing just anywhere because the beach belongs to the closest village, and the attitude is definitely Samoa is for Samoans. A few locals did show up, but they didn't seem exactly the heavy type. Max's pro career had enabled him to visit the home of his most ancient ancestors. The Pacific is full of blowholes. Add a coconut and stand back. Next day, Max and Julian boarded a ferry bound for the island of Savaii. This answers the question, how many Samoans does it take to move a Toyota truck? Notice the biggest guy just does the directing. After a 3-hour trip that felt like 12, we were finally there and wasted no time in getting to the waves. Max heading out to a spot where he may just have been the very first to surf. There's no barrier reef in Samoa, so the waves don't break miles offshore. We didn't know if this was a good day or a bad day, but it was definitely our day. There wasn't another surfer for 100 miles.
Carried me out over the ocean, through tropic seas to distant shores.
Soon we were to head for the Kingdom of Tonga, where we hoped to find better waves. In Tonga, our taxi driver was related to the king of the road, that is. In Samoa, they drive on the right, in New Zealand, they drive on the left, and in Tonga, they drive right down the middle. In Tonga, Max met up with Lyndon and Greg from New Zealand. After a few beers, they agreed to hit the waves the next day. Unfortunately, this time it was the Tonga Tinies. It turned out these were the first waves Lyndon and Greg had gotten in weeks. Max's ambition is to ride small waves as well as he does large waves, but this was getting ridiculous. There really isn't much to do in Tonga. The locals spend time poking around the reefs. In California, this is called octopus, Hawaii, it's taco, and in Tonga, it's called breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Eating off the reef, you never know if what you're eating was going to kill you till you swallowed it. Lyndon, testing. Tonga's called the Friendly Isles, and they really live up to it. Hiya, how y'all doing?
Good. Glad to hear it.
Wealth is judged by how many pigs you've got. They're pretty easy to take care of. All they do is eat coconuts. And after that, they're just into a good scratch. Max, Lyndon, and Greg hadn't got much surf in Tonga. That's the way it goes when you're traveling. But Lyndon and Greg did talk Max into visiting New Zealand later. While Max was finishing up in Tonga, Johnny Boy was stopping off in the Cook Islands on his way to Fiji. The locals quickly led Johnny to the beach and tried to talk him into going out in some rather closed-out conditions. Johnny declining and opting for the next day. Next days in the South Pacific seem to always be flat. Nevertheless, Johnny up bright and early and ready for waves. Windy days can make it pretty hairy just getting down to the beach. Johnny eventually found a place that looked like it might be worth surfing. However, it was hard to tell from shore if it was large enough and deep enough to surf. But with Johnny's first wave, we knew we'd found a good spot. This left-hander just totally pumped on a shallow shelf. It turned out to be some of the best waves Johnny had on the trip. Those Japanese tourists are everywhere. After a few hours of perfect tubes, Johnny was exhausted. The hospitality you find in Polynesia can't be exaggerated. Neither can the taste of fresh coconut milk. Soon, JB, with a little help, was into coconut shucking. Bad shuck. Islanders soon were bringing in an array of seafood. This is a tight-mouthed, scaly fin sucker holding a fish. A little fire, some palm fronds, fresh squeezed coconut, and voila! Hey, they don't call them the Cook Islands for nothing. The funniest part of the day was putting iodine on water photographer Pruitt's coral cuts. Johnny with go out number 2. We'd spent 2 days in the Cooks and got great waves. That's how it is traveling for waves. You hit or you miss.